Well, hello. This is Anana, also known as your blessed girl. I am super excited to be sharing this time with I Ain't That Chick. Now listen here, we are going to be talking about my new project, a new book. It's a movement. More than a book, it's a movement. Letters to Our Sons, A Mother's Love. You do not want to miss. You want to hear the stories of motherhood, triumph, challenges, but being overcomers as we raise our boys in this day and time. Stay tuned.
Everybody, it's Rae-Shan the Tate. It's your girl, I Ain't That Chick, and welcome back to another fantastic episode. As you can see, we have switched it up a little differently this week. The ladies are already saying hello and waving at you. We do have a panel this week, and we want to just get into this fantastic project by Miss Blessed Girl herself, none other than Miss Anana. Anana, you have started this movement. You have this project. It sounds phenomenal, but now I want you to share it with our audience. Tell us the name of it first of all.
Absolutely. So here's the book, and it's called A Mother's Love, Letters to Our Sons. So this project is really incredible, and it's not just a book. Please understand that. We are about a movement, and we are giving women, and these are just three of the amazing women, the opportunity to share their story of motherhood, raising boys in 2017 and beyond.
Wow.
So that's interesting stories here.
Wow. So ladies, we're going to come to you, but before I do that, I want to know, why did you come up with this project? Why?
Absolutely. So I really feel like the story has never been told. You know what? From the time we even pregnant, right? It's all about that baby.
Why?
Okay. What's some people from the time?
Take your word.
From the time you care, girl, when you do. Then when you have the baby, everybody talking about the baby. Everything is about the child. Even as a mother, it's all about your children, right? But there's a story about that woman. There's a story about motherhood. There's a story about the journey of raising a son. And this really is a platform I thought it was missing, to where women can have the opportunity to speak about their story, their journey, and so unique are these stories.
Now, why did you choose, letters to sons and not to daughters?
Yes. Well, I personally, I don't have any girls.
Okay.
So I don't have daughters. Okay. And I know that I wanted to leave that legacy and really tell a bit of my story even to my sons. So I have 3 boys, and they are incredible young men. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
I think so. Well, we'll find out, because we got somebody here on the panel that can give us a little bit more information. But one question I want to ask you before we meet the ladies: who was Anana before she became a mom?
Exactly. You know what? And I can't even remember that. I had my son at the age of 19. So really, Anana was just figuring out being a woman. Absolutely. So I love this now, to where I can really do the things now that I want to do, and really become the woman that I know that I am destined and called to be. And this is just a piece of it.
All right, I'm getting excited. So now we're going to find out about the mothers, but the woman behind the mother. And I do have to start out with the mom, the alpha up here on the platform. Please, Anana, please introduce this beautiful young woman. Notice I said young woman.
A young woman, honey.
Yes.
So if you don't know, this is my mom, Elizabeth Phifer. And I tell you, when I asked her to be a part of the project, at first was like, you can understand. So the one who really gives you the most hesitation and resistance was my mom. But her story was incredible, is incredible. So my mother, I actually had a brother who we lost some years ago. And her story and her journey as a single mom of my brother and then my sisters is really, really incredible. And one that I know a lot of people, it will resonate with the story with him. So she's very, very unique in her story and her letter.
Mom, just that smile, Mom. Mom, how did you feel when your baby asked you to be a part of this project?
To be honest with you, I did not want to be a part.
Why not?
Okay. Because I'm a introverted type person. Okay. And I don't just share things.
You got
with
this
the public.
extroverted daughter. Okay.
That's a whole nother story.
That's why-
Ironic.
That's really why I said no. But of course, my daughter always pushes me. Always. So I usually fall in line with her.
With her. What's your son's name?
His name is Robert.
And tell us something about Robert that we don't know.
Okay. The thing about Robert is, well, I'm going to start at the end of it. That was really very, very tragic for me. He had to go into incarceration into a penal institution. And he was the type of person who, at that time I didn't know, he had bipolar. And he contracted cancer of the throat in the institution. And of course, in the institutions, they don't let you know any information. The doctors don't call the mothers every 3 weeks and tell your son is at this, blah, 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 blah. So his end, I think we found out about maybe a month before he died. Okay, they called me and they said that you need to come to the institution. Your son is really doing poorly. So we went, all of us. We went and we spoke to him. He was at that point. He was talking. He was still alert. But they never told me what the problem was. And so we spent time with him. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, they called me and told me that he was gone. At that time when we went, they did tell me that he had cancer. They didn't explain to me about the bipolar, right? They were giving him medicine and all kinds of stuff. And I know that now that I've researched, certain things about it, I'm sure that when anybody in the prison tried to give him a problem, maybe in his medical state, he would give them a problem. I mean, they weren't just gonna, whether it was an officer or whoever, if anybody tried to take advantage of him, he was gonna give them a serious problem. And I'm sure he did. So I'm sure the medication and everything was just trying to keep him low-keyed as possible.
Right.
But that's what I found out about it. That's sort of like the ending of his story. But it was a tragic situation, trying to get him out of the institution, home. My funeral director, of course. But was a problem. I was living in Pennsylvania, can I say that?
Yeah,
Pennsylvania at that time, and I had to come back to New Jersey because he was incarcerated in New Jersey. And my funeral director was in New Jersey. And so there's a lot of problems trying to move, in the institution, get him out and home, and then they're funeralizing him. But I just want to share with the ladies that you really need God in your life. Because if it wasn't for my church family, and my church community, I don't know what would have happened. Because it was very, very devastating to get everything in place and everything processed and him funeralized the right way.
It was a struggle. Mom, what was your letter to your son? What was your letter about?
Well, my letter was about when he was younger, he was very bright. He was very sharp. He loved his appearance. He loved to look good all the time. Whatever he wanted to do it in the best way. And so I was trying to gear him into who he was and what he was supposed to be about. But I noticed that taking him to church, of course, because I was very into the church, into the community, very, very hard. And he would go, and at a certain point, I realized that he was turning off. He was turning off. And I didn't know the streets that much, but I felt there was an influence coming from the street. And so I was sensing that I had a problem. I had a problem. But because you are the mother, you have to force them to do the things that you know to be right. Now, we're not always correct, but we still have to bring them up in that way. And so he would have to go to church, right? But at the same time, he was still pulling away, and I could sense it. And the thing that really bothered me, and even today, if I have to minister to anyone, learning how to communicate, especially to our youth, is very difficult. We may put it out there, but are they receiving it in the way, they may be receiving it, but are they receiving it in the way that's the best thing for their life? You know, are they being influenced by your teaching, right? Or are they still being pulled, they listen, but when they go out in the street, are they just ignoring you totally?
Are they receiving the way we're giving it?
Right.
Because these times are different generations. You know,
Right.
we don't always receive it. Mom, I'm going to come back to you.
Yes.
Tell us your name.
My name is Bonnie.
Miss Bonnie. Looking
Yes.
all gorgeous and
Thank
everything, Miss Bonnie. Miss Bonnie, what's your son's name?
Antoine and Andrew. Our two
Antoine and
sons.
Andrew. So did you
Yeah.
write a letter to both sons?
Yes.
And so what was your letter to your sons?
My letter was to remind them of their purpose and to remind them of the tools that they have that I tried to give them as they were growing up. Those tools that they need to use throughout life, like choices, making right choices and, being disciplined and that sort of thing. So my letter to them was, if I were dying today and I had one last thing I could say to them, what would I say? So that's the way I geared my letter to them. What is it that I want to make sure that they get? And that's the way I wrote my letter to them.
Was it easy
No.
to write the letter?
Oh my God. First of all, everything we put out to others, you don't even think about yourself sometimes,
Right.
As a person that I minister to people, I speak to people all the time, but to think that you could,
And
actually.
somebody sees you.
Yeah.
And somebody sees you.
It is
for
just
change.
like, it was shocking. Plus it's Anana, I'm like, what?
Well, Anana, why did you ask these ladies to be part of the project?
Wow. You know what? Because I realized that there's a uniqueness, right, in every story. And they all have gone on this journey. That's incredible. And you would never tell by looking at each of them.
No, we're going to get to the women behind the mothers. We're going to get to that.
Absolutely.
Because behind every mom, you had a name before mom.
Yeah.
And I want to find out who those ladies were with those names.
Yes.
So now, introduce yourself to us.
I am Danielle,
Hi, Danielle.
How you doing?
and my letter is to my stepson and my son.
It's different.
My situation is not uncommon because I do know the people in the situation, but my situation is more so of the choices you make within that situation. I was dating someone, and this person decided to have a child with someone else, and
Ain't that shit, right?
and I know what you're thinking, like, girl, no, you did. That's
But
not
girl,
what you
you
do.
did.
I don't know how you do it.
But you know what? That's what a lot of sisters.
Of course.
Right, so that is
girl,
what
leave him.
that is
But
exactly.
you have something else involved in
That is
your heart.
exactly
That's right.
my
That's
sister.
right.
She
Okay.
knows. The mom has been there. I've known her
You love them.
since
Yes.
11th grade, since 6th grade.
Okay.
So it was that. I got a lot of stupid. Like, go ahead.
Girl, this is an
This
episode
is not what
all
you do.
by itself.
Right. So, that's how I was feeling. Like, there's no way, But I was young. And, you have someone that's that sweet talker that can, you're right. Okay. So, fast forward to this person and I decided to move in together.
Okay.
And subsequently, he says, I'm going to take custody of my son. And again, I got that, girl, leave, run now. What's wrong with you? Are you stupid, retarded? Like, what's going on?
No, you're not. You're strong. That's what you're.
So in my mind, I was like, and my reaction to that was like, no, I'm not. I'm not helping you raise this child. This is what you decided to do. I'm out of here. I'm not leaving. Blah blah blah. And in comes the child one day, and no matter how much you try to not like a child, you can't
As a child.
not like a child. At the time, my stepson was 3. And his little curly haired little boy walks in and innocent to the whole thing. He didn't ask to be here, and I had to really think like it's not his fault. And even though he was living there, I was distant Very distant. Like, you know, he would ask me something. I'm like, well, ask your father.
Yeah.
Like, don't ask me. I ask your mother.
Because you're
Go
looking
ask your
at
father.
what his
Right.
dad did.
Right. Go
You see
ask your
that.
father. That is, I ask your mother. Go ask your
Right.
father. But eventually, as time went on, the situation changed where that man decided he wanted to go and have fun, and I was left with the child. So that child and I got a bond.
You mean have fun, like just go out for the
Just
night?
be out. Like, be out. But I stayed not a year. This child is now 19.
And you still stayed.
But I am no longer married, but I ended up marrying this person because everyone can change, right? So now I'm marrying someone and I'm already a stepmother and I'm not even married yet.
Wow.
So now along comes my son 6 years later. But the thing is, now that I've helped raise this child for this long, you know, for 3 years or whatever, now I'm prepared for my son. So now here comes my son, and it's a whole nother ball game because even though they're both boys, they're 6 years apart now. So there's a difference in personalities. There's a difference in everything, but they are the best of friends at 6 years apart. And I mean, my son will pattern himself after my other son, and now it's to the point where I don't say, "That's my son." You know, that's my stepson. That is my son. I raised that child for 9 years.
Speaking of seeing, ladies, this question is for all of you. Now, before you became pregnant with your first child, I want to know what were some of the hopes and dreams that you had for yourself? And then when you became pregnant with that son, what were some of the hopes and dreams you had for that baby? And were you still able to realize your own hopes and dreams after you became a mom? Anana, can I start?
I will say, I mean, I always had big dreams to be a lawyer, to be in front of a camera. Look at this. You know, so I always was a big dreamer, right? And hard worker. But I guess I remember even carrying my first son again at 19. You know what I mean?
Your
Thinking
baby
like,
at
this
19.
is it. Like, you know? But it was like, no, we're going to go through this together.
But let me stop you. Were you scared? Were you nervous?
Oh, absolutely. Who knows what to even expect? And that's the thing. They have, you know, classes on childbirth and breastfeed and what else? They got, you know, to go through that. But what is it really about being a mother, right? Really mothering and raising this child. Again, like you have dreams and aspirations for yourself. And now even for this child. How do you get them from here to there?
Did you ever say, you know what, maybe I'm too young and I shouldn't keep?
Oh, absolutely.
You did?
No
Okay.
question about that.
Okay.
Because you're like, okay, you know, there's options here. But I think I even said that to my son. There was never a question about you being here and your greatness. And that's something that I even shared to him in his letter.
That's, you know, that's bold. That's beautiful, because there's some 19-year-old girls that are scared to death. I can't tell my parents that I'm pregnant. I can't do this, and we just go ahead and get rid of our baby. So what were some of the hopes and dreams you had?
So for my son, I knew he was supposed to be a doctor. From the womb, right? He's 22 and he's not a doctor, y'all. Let me just say. But again, the thing, and I think even a part of the book, I talk about letting go, because those were my dreams and my aspirations. But I understand that even at a young age, I'm not sure, maybe he was like 3 or 4 months, that actually I dedicated him back to God. Now this is your child.
Yes.
Right? So I have to, and even as mothering, we all have visions and thoughts of our children, but there comes to a point where we gotta say, I gotta let it go.
Let it go.
Right? I've done my job, right? I've done my part, and now I let you grow and blossom and spread your wings to be who you really are.
Yes.
So my dream was definitely for him to be a doctor. He is now a marketing communications expert.
A marketing beast, probably.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Whatever it is,
Yes.
doing his thing. But you know what? That was a part of my process and my journey, that you know what? My dreams for you is that they're my dreams.
That's your dreams.
But you know what, baby? You gotta be you.
got
You
to
know
be
what? You
you.
gotta develop as a man and be yourself,
Yes.
and do and be all that God has called you to be.
Yes.
And I think we definitely share that and touch on that as motherhood.
Ronnie, I want to ask you, what is it like to be the mother of a son? Because that mother-son relationship is, I mean, I'm not a mom, but you know, being the girlfriend, coming in and meeting the mom, it's like, and moms just have such a special connection with their sons. What is that?
I don't know what that is, but I will say that it's very different raising daughters than it is raising sons, because I have 2 girls. And my sons, I think the communication thing was really important to me with them because they don't talk as much as the girls do about what's going on, but I noticed that they're watching. So my whole thing with them was, the connection I had with them was I would be back watching what they're watching and then seeing their reaction to it, and then later on making time to bond with them, to talk about it, to make them come out with what it was they saw and what the interpretation of it was, because it was always different from what the girls would say. Yeah, the guys see things from a whole different angle. It would be fascinating to me, you know, that when I would sit and talk to them about what we just did and what they were thinking, what the girls just said, they thought, I would be like, wow.
Just that communication.
Yes.
Just still, as adults, we just go in different ways.
Yes, yes. So like Anana, I was actually 19 when I had Antoine, and but I was in college and I was living on campus. So my girlfriends and I would like rotate our schedules so that, you know, I could go to my classes when I had him and everything. So it was a very amazing and interesting time. I actually went into labor while I was taking my exams. and I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want to be kicked out of the class. Yeah, so I just sat in there and finished. Yeah. And one thing about my oldest son is that, you know, they delayed my labor because my doctor was out playing golf and he was teeing or something crazy. And so they delayed my labor, and I didn't know. You know, they had me sign something. I didn't even know what I was signing. You know, I was in labor. So I didn't know, and I was young, and I was by myself. My people weren't there yet. And so they delayed my labor, and instead of having him in the afternoon, I should have had him like 12 in the afternoon. I had him about 11:35 at night. And so throughout his life, I saw him as that. You know, I saw that as a prophetic thing that happened because a lot of things for him were delayed.
But not denied.
But not denied, you know, but definitely delayed. And I would encourage him through those times because I was like, you know, that was just a part of who he was to be. You know, that's the way his life was mapped out. And then the other son, well, that one is more communicative now with me.
Okay.
My oldest son, we talk all the time. He's very communicative. My younger son is more difficult to get to the meat of what's going on with him, you know, because, you know, it's just a whole different ballgame, and they're two different, very different personalities. So now I know how a more passive personality of a man acts and how aggressive, you know, alpha type male acts, you know, because the youngest one is more alpha male, he's an athlete, he does all the oldest one is a musician, so he has that musician temperament, you know, but my father was an artist, so I was accustomed to that temperament, you know, it was different. So I have to say it was just amazing. Trying to communicate with them was one of my huge accomplishments because now we talk a lot.
But it's wonderful when sons come to their mom and talk and open up and can share because they need that.
Yes.
Because the guys out on the street, they don't know what they're doing.
No.
So you can come to your mom and talk to her. That's fantastic. Now, Mom, my question for you is, if you could sit down and have a conversation with your son, what would you talk to him about? What would you say to him? And not too much. If you could say 2 sentences to him, what would you say?
I would say that he was very important and that he didn't have to worry about another person or try to be like another person or act like another person. If he could only internalize who he was and just be him. You know, that's one of the things I would tell him. And also in choosing friends, if he could choose people who were good for him, who lined up with his vision, and who would support him and not try to distract from him for their benefits or whatever they wanted to do. If he could make those kinds of decisions in life, I thought that that would be something that I could really give to him if he would receive it.
Did you ever say, Lord, why? Like, God, why? Like, God, you know, when I was pregnant, Lord, and I was dreaming, I was talking to you about my baby, God, I didn't see this. You didn't show me this part. Like, God, why?
No. I was really into God, and whatever God did, that was okay with me. But the thing was, to share with other women, is that God was there, even in the drastic situations. Just share one thing. My son, I told you, he was going away from the church. He was going away from me. I could sense that, going into the world. And what God did was, he had him go to the streets of New York whatever, whether it was drugs or whatever. On the streets of New York, he sent a missionary or a street minister, right, in his path. Now, where he wasn't receiving me,
Right.
that street minister got a hold of him, got his attention. He got saved on the streets of New York. He came back home to tell me about his salvation experience. He started going to church. I mean, the whole 9 yards. So I just want to share that God is going to be there for us, even in our devastation. We don't know what's happening. Why me, Lord? The whole 9 yards. God has our backs. He really does, and I experienced that in life.
You know, it just reminds me of that song Oceans, and you know the verse in it where your grace abounds in deepest waters, and deepest waters means we're gonna get into some trouble. You know, we're gonna have some stuff, but it says your sovereign hand will be my guide. Like, God, you're there with me in the deepest, in my dirty, in my ugly, and stuff that I don't even want people to see. God, you're still with me. I think that is just so. That's like, yeah, that's the love. That's the letter to all of us. I want to ask you, because Mom became your name for many, many, many years, I'm sure. So who were you before you were Mom?
I don't know. Who was I? I was Danielle. I was Danielle in college. I was Danielle with 2 jobs. You know, I had focused on, you know, getting to junior. I had 2 jobs. I wanted my own little apartment. I just wanted to be Danielle.
Absolutely.
So exactly.
And now I want to ask you, what is your hope for your project?
Well, you know what? There's a lot. Nothing is just one shot. The first thing I like it because again, it's a platform for women to really share their stories, and that's something, you know, that is not done enough. Believe it or not. So it's like telling the untold story. You know, the story behind the story. The other thing is, I mean, the women, they give letters to their sons, but also they share inspiration.
Okay.
So they each have a chapter of inspiration to other mothers, to other women, and that's more importantly. And I said that, you know what, if you are inspired by any story, by any of the letters, right, and also if there's a place for healing, if this book will allow you, you know what, even for mothers and for sons, you know what, there could be some relationships that are, you know, maybe even strained, but if we give that opportunity for mothers to now, hey, maybe you do need to write a letter to your son. Maybe there's some things you can't say.
That's the movement. Some things, you know, because not every mother is that communicative or touchy-feely or anything, and why not? I think that's beautiful. Could you imagine all these letters just around the country? Now, where can people find out more about your book?
Yes. So the book is available on blessedgirls.com. So yes, you'll see. You see all our lovely authors here. And so blessedgirls.com, you are able to purchase the book, and we'll have it shipped right out to you there.
I just think you need to be on stage somewhere with mothers, you know, reciting these letters to their sons. I really do. I think that's healing. I think people need it. So think about that. Ladies, thank you so much for being on my show. I so appreciate you. Let's say goodbye to everyone.
So appreciate you. Thank you.
Dearest Bobby, thank you for being my son. I love you dearly. I did not have the opportunity to really express to you the way I feel between you and I, no other person, only God listening.
Dear Antoine and Andrew, I am so proud to be your mother, and I love you so very much. So I want to make sure that you use your power tools of choice and self-control, you know, whenever you are out there, and know that I am always there for you. And
Dearest Miles in Ellington, thank you for allowing me to be your mom and your stepmom. You guys, don't defeat yourself before you've actually won the game. Keep God in your life, and I'm always here for the both of you for whatever you need.
Dear Richard, Jeremiah, Nasset, my first, second, and third love. You guys are amazing. You are called, you are set apart to do incredible things. Trust God, put Him first, because you are powerful.
Want to find out more about I Ain't That Chick? Visit our website at www.IAin'tThatChick.com.